do just first off was just give the guys. I mean, I think these session here, the three presentations have probably been some of the best that I've seen for a long time, and it's tackling a particularly tricky topic. But can I just ask you, please, to put your hands together and give these guys another round of applause. Sorry. So, I just wanted to kind of reflect on a couple of things that I've been hearing, which I've been particularly interested about. Now, I totally love what Katrina and Katrina are doing, and I think the interesting thing there is that just to pause and reflect that really there's two of them, and they're working with 300,000 people. So there's talk about scale. I think that's an amazing achievement, and I really, really want to understand, you know, how you can scale up even further. Now, Nick made some very interesting observations. A man after my own heart, although better dressed. The idea of top down and bottom up as a way of moving forward, I think, is a super critical one. We must not be afraid of the top down, if you like, and only ever focus on the bottom up. I do like the idea of a designer as a midwife. That's very attractive. Not the magician, if you like, which sometimes the designers back in the day, when you're as old as I am, being a magician was the thing. And Munib and Jon, your kind of scary zone ideas, nice landing, wrong airport, but also return on learning. I think learning is a theme that we've been hearing across today. Not so much return on investment, but return on learning. I think that's a fascinating and positive thought to take forward. So I've got just a couple of questions that I'd kind of really like to hear your answers in a way. And this is picking up on one of the questions that's in the quiz, in the game that we've been playing. And it's about the sort of the superhero, okay? So if I can mix my magical metaphors here and say, if you had a magic wand, which superhero quality would you kind of really want to amplify, really dial up, to give implementation and scale the best chance of success? So if there was one button that you could press and keep pressing it, what would that button be? So Katrina, maybe you could start us off there.
Is this working? Yeah. Well, the first thing that came to mind was, what's the word? It's not bifurcation. It's the ability to be in multiple places at once.
Omnipresence, maybe.
Omnipresence, yeah. I mean, that's the challenge for us is, you know, the service design work, the co-creation work has been very successful, but now we're sort of getting pulled in many directions, and so we have to prioritize, and we can't respond to everything.
I thought you were going to say kind of like replication or something, because there's just
actually where I was going.
We're cloning the Katrinas.
Yeah, cloning.
A few more Katrinas. Right.
Yeah, I was going more for replication in the sense that we're now in 2 different countries. So I'm based in Copenhagen, and Katrina's in San Ramon in California. That's starting to help us in a global scale because we are working globally. It's really around the world. But at the same time, we're only a few people. And we are really honored to have our partners here. So we have 5 other people from GE, from our team that we work very closely with. And we're not all designers. They are not all designers. And that's what's really cool. It's not just designers that can do it. So it's not just to say that designers need to replicate themselves, but it's really also to infuse the designer instincts into others.
But still it is a challenge, surely not, of numbers, if not anything else. So maybe you need to get on that recruitment. So I guess, so Nick, just thinking about super duper powers, and which do you think might be the key one to call upon?
To learn how to embed consistently service design in the broader service innovation process, not imagine that we've got all the answers. You know, service design is great when it's kind of sandwiched between some absolutely brilliant diagnostics and scoping. It never begins with discover. Somebody's been doing some stuff. We've got to do that. It never ends with that kind of blueprint and video. It's kind of where value stream mapping, you know, all the great lean methodologies, all that stuff comes in. But integrating that so it's absolutely seamless. So you use just the right amount of the kind of service design that's required. You know, so it's the modesty to understand that we don't have all the answers. But when we put together what we've got a lot of great businesses are great at, then that is something amazing. So the end-to-end service innovation process.
So do you think we have a tendency to believe in ourselves, possibly, that we have all the ideas and we can do away with those management consultancies and those business folks, we can do it all ourselves. So it really is about understanding our weaknesses, our foibles, if you like, and the benefit of working in maybe the implementation pods sort of as part of a larger team, possibly, but not too large. Munib and Jon, what about you think about those, the critical superpowers? But maybe you could only have one, and it wasn't to be all the individuals in your implementation pod.
I think, well, first, maybe a Harvard MBA with an RCA degree would be a good one, according to Nick. I think that's a good point. I actually think, speaking from the consulting side, that we need to move more towards consulting and not designing. And that, in some cases, sucks, right? It's like, I don't want to sit with clients. That's what McKinsey does. But I think that's actually where we actually understand the organization, the constraints, and move ideas through. And with that comes client empathy. We're very good at customer empathy, whether it's B2B or end consumer, but understanding where the client's coming from. One of my old mentors said that no company's ever said no to making more money. So it's not that they're just hating on your idea for the sake of it. It's that you got to figure out how to move that around.
Okay.
For me, the key power is actually noble purpose of my organization, where we really believe that we would like to help our people to have a better lives on their tomorrow. And this is what drives me actually to make sure that we have plenty of good ideas, but we need to understand customers and we need to tailor all of these ideas and kind of navigate through the organizational hierarchies and all of this complexity that we have and bring to customers. And this is my vision, and this is what I would like to see, that customers say, this company is actually helping me live better life.
Okay. The curiosity about doing panels up and down is that you get the longest time to think about the answer there. So I've got question number 2, straight back to you guys, okay? Minimum time to think about it. This is one of those questions that we barely ever ask, okay? And I'm really wanting you to kind of dig deep and be honest about this. So where has there been a failure? I want to hear where something went wrong. I obviously would like to hear that you kind of fixed it and what you learnt from it and moved forward. We're always talking about learning sooner to succeed quicker and prototyping and refining and iterating and all that kind of stuff. So I want to hear about a little failure that you learned from.
Yeah. Look, I think when we were designing new concepts, we came with fantastic ideas where we thought that's the kind of key driver how people will go into multiple concepts, which I can't exactly say what it is, but I would say where we failed. So then we thought that's the platform. And in traditional way, if we actually look at it after first round of testing, we say, wow, this is brilliant, let's actually scale this. Build a platform, and we probably would spend millions of dollars building this platform. But we started pushing further testing and asking people why. Why? And then we realized after several kind of tests and then iterations, we realized that people actually don't care about that front end that we were thinking, but they do care about these small bits that actually impact their lives. And what we realized, we need to stop this front end and just focus on these small bits that they are looking for, and then later on reconsider if we will build this and put it on the platform. So this is the example, but I can give you plenty of examples. When we go through this, because what we learn in the return on learning means you actually make mistake and you learn on your mistake. It's not about actually. What we're saying, don't make same mistake twice. So that's the kind of point.
Nick, maybe.
I mean, I've got the same amount of time to figure out because I'm sitting in the middle.
Start in the middle next.
Worked with a retailer with a great, fantastic and very creative group of our students. And we came up with a phenomenal solution that went absolutely nowhere. It went nowhere because we'd not understood effectively the constraints that the organization was under. Because, and it comes back to what I was saying before about sandwiching the service design process with a really effective diagnostics and scoping beforehand. A diagnostic and scoping exercise that makes sure that all the information, all the resources, all the people you're going to engage with, all the people who are going to be affected by this as a consequence of your design are informed beforehand about what it's about. So when we kind of started working with a financial services organization, one of the major banks in the UK, we kind of worked through so that we had that kind of alignment all the way up, so we weren't pulled in every different direction. And I think as a designer, you know, you often kind of get requested to kind of get involved in a whole load of stuff, and you think the person that's briefing you within the client has got it all cooked inside, but actually they're fishing a bit. And making sure there's the effective diagnostic and scoping then allows you to kind of really engage. So I think that's a very crucial element. A thing we got wrong, and then we've kind of learned from it.
Good, good. And lastly?
Sure. I'm going to steer us 2.5 to 3 years back in time, where we were working a lot with, I say we in the sense of the industrial internet team. It was very new at the time. It's only existed for 4.5 years, so it's really building this up. We had a lot of external great partners in our design teams that were helping build up what does this internal design team look like. One of the biggest challenges, and you guys were hitting on it earlier, is this handoff process. Because when we have external teams coming in, doing a lot of the work, doing a lot of the research, owning all of the insights, and then leaving again. You leave with the insights. You forget that that's actually something that the business needs to embody, which is back to the whole idea around how you can actually bring more of our internal stakeholders with you on the journey to get more people to learn those insights. And one of the things that's been happening now is that we've started having a very different relationships with our teams and with our external partners, because it doesn't mean that there's no work for external partners, because we aren't everywhere. So we love working with them. We love working with our internal teams, our external teams, and it's all about this symbiosis relationship between the teams where we can really use the best of both worlds, but have everyone involved in the process from the beginning. So everyone is learning the same things, but adding their specific value.
So I can imagine that the 2.5, 3 years since then, that kind of learning curve has been extremely steep. Both for you, of course, and the senior stakeholders. That's the important, that you're taking them on that journey with you. So thanks, guys. I'm just wondering if there are, maybe if we've got time, if we've still got the energy, just for a couple of quick questions from you guys out there. Have we got any mics? There's a gentleman in the middle, blue t-shirt, sticking his finger in the air. And meanwhile, I think once we've wrapped up this session, I think we're going to have a couple of messages around our sort of social activities later on tonight. So, sir, your question.
So my name is Mats. I come from Stockholm, Howell Design Agency. My question is to the last case. How did you create this significant conditions to do that sort of a project? To me, that shows so much trust from the client. So could you please explain the conditions when starting up this project?
Sure, yeah. So I think it goes a little project by project of how we specifically do it, but it involves us having really strong partners and really good relationships with them and being very transparent, honestly, because we're not holding back like you might have had clients that are doing. And that requires trust, like you're saying, and we can't do that if we don't have strong relationships. So I think it all comes down to those relationships. It's really a matter of taking that time to walk through all the constraints that you're seeing, all the stakeholders that would be involved, and doing that together. So when you're from an outside agency thinking about all the brief that you need to create, and we're internally thinking about the brief that we need to create, why aren't we doing that together? So partnering up early on, creating the pre-project together, shaping all of these solutions together, even before it becomes an SOW.
Thank you. But it was really to the last case. The last case that was presented. My question was to...
Maybe you guys could kind of have a sort of chat afterwards. So one more question. Gentleman here in the front, can we get you a mic? I'm sure your tummies are all rumbling and you're getting real thirsty here, aren't you?
Hi, thank you. A question for the two of you. So, with the implementation pods that you were discussing, I noticed that there weren't engineering leads that were involved in that, and I'm just kind of curious when you maybe coming from an organization where engineering leads have a lot of institutional knowledge, or where the culture is very much propping them up as key decision makers. How do you make that transition, and have you have an experience trying to implant that sort of model and put it into place in different situations?
Yeah. So this model has worked within service organizations, right? So financial services, distribution, insurance, banking. It's a good question. If you're defining engineering more from a product standpoint, we're happy to explore that further. We simply haven't had a situation. I think it could make incredible sense to have an engineering lead. Certainly, business lead, design lead are important. The functional roles on that can rotate in. So if you're building an insurance product, it could be underwriting, actuary, digital, IT, call center. Those could be your 5. So the model could be the same for engineering.
Yeah, I agree. So I think what would be the component here is like if we look at the business, people who are working, making decisions day to day in business, but you have a designer attached to it who is making decisions on the end user. So I see no difference if you have an engineer sitting there and have a designer attached to it, and then you have a core multidisciplinary team. So it's important to say that it is not just the same type of engineers. You have a different process in engineering. So what are the key parts of that you need to be involved, and surrounding extended team will help. So what we think is there's kind of pods actually democratizing situation for the core team because they are making decisions. Yes, business and design leads are leaders, but also the subject matter experts within the pod are actually very well informed what is relevant from the business perspective.
Cool. Okay, look, if we could give the guys one more round of applause, that'd be wonderful. Well earned.